If Republicans and Democrats can't find a way to compromise on spending, the federal government will shut down on March 4th. But what do you think the chances for compromise would be if Senator Rand Paul, the fiery Tea Party newcomer who wants to abolish the Departments of Education and Energy and lots more, what if he was running the show? Well, tonight my co-anchor Bill Weir sits down with the senator for the Nightline interview.
It is lunchtime on Capitol Hill, and America's most controversial new senator is on his way to the one place he knows his ideas are always welcome, the office of America's most controversial representative, also known as Dad.
I was just so curious about how the roommate situation is working out.
We're not to talk about that in public.
Oh, really? It's that bad?
Actually, it's very good.
Yes, Rand and Ron Paul are D.C. roomies these days, and they share a lot more than rent.
I'm glad to see the revolution is continuing.
Because the son grew up worshiping his father, as the doctor-turned-philosopher-statesman was mocked and praised for his ideals. He was there when he ran for president with promises to gut big government, end wars, and legalize drugs. And now the libertarian lion has a blood ally.
Did he have any sage advice first day in the halls of power?
Yeah, he said just be real quiet and don't try to stir up any trouble.
Right.
And,
No controversial votes.
that's right.
We don't believe in that.
That is the epitome of sarcasm, of course. And when it comes to stirring things up, Rand Paul has made Papa proud from the moment he left his ophthalmology office to run for this one.
There were times when I'd come home and my wife was crying about the things they were saying about me, and we thought, is it worth it?
As a Tea Party candidate, Paul had to beat both Kentucky's Democrat and Republican machines while surviving potentially devastating controversies.
I abhor racism. I think it's a bad business decision to ever exclude anybody from your restaurant. But at the same time, I do believe in private ownership.
One firestorm erupted after he argued in an editorial meeting with the Louisville Courier-Journal that by ordering restaurants to serve African Americans, the Civil Rights Act gave too much power to government. And then there was the anonymous former classmate who told GQ that during a pot-fueled college escapade, Paul tied her up and made her worship a pagan water god called Aqua Buddha. He denied it, and she later clarified it wasn't kidnapping, but a harmless prank.
What was the lowest point of the campaign for you?
I think probably being called an idol worshiper, being accused of kidnapping. Now we can look back, and my wife and I can laugh at it a little bit.
But as he describes in his new book, The Tea Party Goes to Washington, he shrugged off attacks from the, quote, left-wing media and was spurred on by disgust over rampant spending by both parties, especially Republicans like Mitch McConnell.
You're wearing your elephant tie today, but I wonder what's your relationship with Mitch McConnell now?
I think good. I think the entire Republican caucus on the Senate side is for a balanced budget amendment. And I say that's good. That means we are philosophically in tune. But I say you have to cut spending. And
you're miles apart from what they want to cut.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
So while the president argues for a budget scalpel, Rand Paul would use a chainsaw, shutting down the Departments of Energy and Education. He would kill the Consumer Product Safety Commission, shrink the Pentagon, and cut off all foreign aid. And while the most fiscally conservative Republicans were proposing $50 billion cuts, he wanted to slash $500 billion.
I'd go to a rally and I'd say, I'm not here to bring you a brand new shiny building. I'm not here to bring you any federal money. There is no money left.
Does the richest nation in the history of nations have a responsibility to take care of its weakest?
As a Christian, we are our brother's keeper, and we do have a moral obligation to take care of those. The question you have to ask is the federal government equipped to do it?
And for proof of his hatred of government regulation, consider the bill making it a federal crime to shine a laser into the cockpit of an aircraft in flight.
It passed 96-1. Who was the one?
Can you imagine?
It was you. Explain that.
14-year-old kid standing outside the airport and he's shining his laser light at the cockpit. I don't want that, but I think the local sheriff can take care of that. Laws are best done at the local level.
But at the federal level, there is the real possibility the government could grind to a halt if both sides can't agree on a budget.
What are the chances you think that this is all going to shut down in March?
I hope it doesn't. I hope we can find a compromise. The other side wants the dynamic of blaming Republicans for shutting things down. But this happens at every level of government. For example, in my little town, if they don't pass a budget, you know what the first thing they do? They turn the lights off at the Little League Park and say no more Little League games because they want everybody up in arms.
But a government shutdown is not Little League. And the cuts he's proposing have the potential to make those Wisconsin protests look like a church social. But Rand Paul has promised his Tea Party faithful there will be very little compromise in his tenure, and they'll be watching to see if he becomes Senatized.
Are you a burr under the saddle of Republicans?
Sometimes, but and I do think I am able to agitate. Everything up here is fixable, but you have to have people who aren't afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid not to be elected.